Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Captain America Finale, Issue 1, 2023. Yeah. And I really like this cover because it just kind of culminates with everything that we've been doing with like Steve's journey with the Sentinel of Liberty and the Outer Circle and everything. It's just a really nice cover that covers everything that we've done so far. Now, I enjoyed this one because it felt like a more kind of tight story, even though I could definitely see that saying that this kind of got wrapped up pretty neatly. And the thing is, I usually tend to favor neatly kind of wrapped up stories. And then this pretty much just ending off the story and getting us set up for Steve's new series in September. There's just some weirdness that pops up in certain kind of ones, but other than that, I thought that this was enjoyable and that it stayed true to pretty much the characters that we've seen so far. And we get a tribute to John Romita in here as well, which is nice. I like that that's going on. And then we get into it. We pretty much see them setting up and getting ready to take on and deal with the Outer Circle. Steve gearing up as Cap and Bucky pretty much as the Revolution at the Outer Circle kind of thing, as Steve pretty much jumps off a plane. This is what I know. We've come to the end of this game. Oh, we've come to the end of the game as we see the Shadow Capital and Bucky talking with the rest of the Outer Circle. And then we pretty much get how this kind of works out. The Lud's like, oh, this was sooner than any of us imagined. Power used his final move to save his own life. Money to hire mercenaries to defend our fortress. The machine to fill our halls with designer organisms that answer to her alone. Our noble efforts have degraded into a dull and redundant pissing contest, and so only one last move remains. The love of stains and withdrawals. So she leaves and kind of leaves her as kind of like a loose end. So we'll kind of have to see how that kind of works out. For the most part, most of it is wrapped up well enough. It's like, the at least Outer Circle game part is done. We'll have to see how this kind of works out. The Power's like, oh, I'm giving up after all this time. The Machine's saying she didn't have a chance. That's what you don't see, my old friends and truest rivals. Since the moment Bucky Barnes arrived here, none of us did. And now, at long last, the board belongs to the Revolution. And for some reason, we have a gun with a twisted barrel, and I don't know what it means or what's going on with that at all. It's just very odd. Now, granted, if I'm missing something, tell me. I'm completely alright with that. Then, of course, we see Bucky with his cat, saying death to the Outer Circle. Final move, of course, having Steve, Nomad, and Destroyer popping up. Calling them the invaders. We move fast, we move strong, we stop at nothing. Nomad, keep the perimeter. Destroyer, keep the promise. Today we deliver a century of justice, and we don't stop moving until the job's done. Which, this kind of echoes what was going on with, like, the Cold War, but Steve's focused more on actually doing the things here, so it's almost like a kind of redo, where Steve knew what he was going for there. It's just they kind of mucked around with like his motivations and everything, and just kind of writing him out of character. Here, he's in character, and we get a nice 2-page spread. I like these ones. It just is interesting to see how they do the movement and everything going on with this. Taskmaster being involved. Arrayed every villain they can pay against me and mine. Of course, the gunfire brings back like thousands of memories, and that there's victory in every one of them. He remembers the way Taskmaster braces when he throws the shield, the way Viper relies on range to keep her quarry at bay, the way Crossbone leaves his right side exposed when you step to him with your left, which it's interesting that we've got these kind of other villains in play, but they're given like almost no time. It kind of feels like short-shifting them a little bit, even though we do get action in this kind of page for it. But it's like, okay, why would they be working with the Outer Circle? It's a nice kind of little callback, but for all these kind of villains, but there's more story there that could have been done, more potential, and none that really kind of goes in on the Outer Circle. They just kind of need to be wrapped up at this point, and you kind of feel that. Let's see. The way Namor would laugh as he rode a Nazi bomber out of the sky. The way Jim would clear the field of fire with a wave of his hand. The way the shield curved in the cold German winds. Once they seemed like distant recollections of an old and tired man. But now I see them for what they are. Lessons taught to me by friends so that when the impossible stands before me, I stand a fighting chance. And I like that, and that's a very Steve kind of way to understand that, like going from it's just recollections of someone who's tired and old to these are lessons that I've learned from my life and to help me get at this point to deal with these things. Then of course we see the robotic soldiers and that the machine's been busy, that the briefing didn't have that. Steve being like, guess they were tired of soldiers with their own minds. I'll never break through this line in time. And then Nomad's like, we can you can if we pull their fire. He's right, we need to take the fire. Sharon, that's too much resistance, even for you. Baby, when I survive this, I'm never going to let you hear the end of it. Now go finish this, and let me do what I do best. So they pretty much go and take all the fire from the robotic soldiers, which are not drawn that... Well, they don't really give them much to look at. They're just essentially the cannon fodder, and they're just getting thrown at. It's not that the art's bad, it's just... they put more emphasis on Sharon and Nomad, which, yeah, I would do that in that same kind of scenario. Nomad talking about how there's more than he can track, and that Sharon pretty much tells him to just act, just keep fighting until you can't. Who cares as long as we take this place down with us? We should have brought an army. Hindsight's a bitch, huh? Just keep swinging and make sure they have the scars to remember you. I'm afraid I don't have an army, Mom. Ian. And then Ian pops up to help him. But would you settle for some howling commandos? So that's a kind of cool little introduction, but that's all we really get from Ian, and that he just brings in an army of, like, werewolf dudes. Which, I'm glad that we had Ian pop up. Like, I'm not knocking that fact. It's just... there's elements in here that could have been better interwoven, and it kind of gets my enjoyment a little bit, but not enough for me to, like, be like, this completely sucks. I'm not on that level, alright? I'm just like, it's gonna be done a little bit better, but it's cool to have, like, a Howling Commando reference. The machine's like, alright, this is over. Deactivate Meat Space Avatar and return to the source. And her thing just goes, boop. Power's like, what the fuck are you doing? Get back here. And then there were three. Sorry, Fortunov, but I think your friend is throwing a Hail Mary. Only one problem, though. I'm already in the end zone. Then, of course, we see the machine notices that Captain America's there. I should have never imagined you. And that's what the machine looks like. It's like, okay, that's really fucking cool looking. After all these years, the symbol of my hubris finally stands before the machine's true form. And he comes clad in garish colors, wielding my life's sharpest betrayal. And then we actually get some information on her, that when she was human she loved a child and named him Daniel. The name was not in the tradition of my people. It served as a reminder none could judge me, not king or priest or warrior. Only God, which of course I became. I regret what I did to my boy. I regret more that he found in my actions the fuel for his heresy. So I hereby divest myself from this petty planet and its levers of money and power. I will now destroy this place with you inside. The game will be over, and only I will remain. So evidently, that's linking Daniel, who created the shield, to making it to pretty much defeat his mother. Which comes pretty late, but it's better to have some kind of motivation than just like, none at all. Steve being like, yeah, I've heard quite a few speeches like that, but you got one thing wrong. You don't know quite everything your son left behind. And you and yours have made a map of the world so you could manage your way around controlling it. But what you really did was show all of us exactly the shape of our cage. It's not your symbol or mine, it's his, and it stands for one thing, freedom. as he throws the shield at the machine. Then, of course, it starts going like hostile interface. No! Integrating embedded code and initiating scan. Code integrated master override confirmed. User ID Agboji. Kill switch initiated. Hello, mother, and goodbye. It's like, okay, that's an interesting way to do it. And then, we get this weird one. I thought that the machine had already left the meat space, but evidently that killing thing is showing her kind of dying there. And of course, the power's like, ah shit, the engines are dead, and so is she. Do you get it yet, you bastards? The machine built this place. She was connected to everything, and now she's broken. It is you who will break, you ungrateful wretch, as the power tries to utilize his power upon Bucky. His arm's able to pretty much take it, and then of course the money's like, I'm withdrawing, motherfucker! And then we get the weirdest fucking, like, bit possible. So they're kind of duking it out. The power's pretty much cursing his ass. I'm the blood of the world, you ignorant type. And then we see him get scratched, and Bucky's cat starts going at him, and then he gets kicked by the cat, and then we just see a crunch panel, and then we see him dead with the cat just licking its paw over top his dead body. Like, I don't mind that the cat killed someone. Alright? It's just the way in its execution where it comes out of nowhere. We don't even actually really see the kill. And it's just like, how did this fucking happen? Like, we just see kick, crunch, and dead. It's odd and anticlimactic. Like, granted, if you're going to show a cat fight a person, trust me, even in a Captain America comic, I will take seeing Bucky's cat fight someone if you're actually gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, commit to it. And then Bucky's like, Alpine, damn, that was cold, little girl. You sure you're not the Punisher's cat? I'm like, yeah, the Pet Avengers issue. Bucky's cat versus Frank's cat. That would be interesting. You're not kidding, but it's, let's see. The cat then starts kind of talking to him, and he's like, you're not kidding, but it's all part of the plan. Learned a lot from you already, I know, but what do you say? Want to teach me how to land on my feet as everything's fucking blowing up around them? The art, like, the art is the high point of this, man. It just, that's really beautiful, even though it's destruction. Seeing all the fire and everything as the Shadow Capital has crashed, and just really nice effective use of colors and lines to denote the crashing and actual movement of it. So then we see Bucky and Steve looking at each other. We even, like, this is a really good one because you actually see the cat looking like, holy fucking shit, what the fuck's going on? So they get towards each other and they start shielding each other from the explosions. Steve with the shield, Bucky with his arm, and we see the power has survived. And Bucky's like, hold it, asshole. Pretty much calling him out that murder's on his mind. I can read it, so can he. We all remember what happened the last time you had your finger on a trigger. Do you regret your choice, Barnes, or will you finally embrace what you've become? It's like, okay. And then, of course, we see them kind of talking about it. Steve being like, you don't have to pull the trigger. Power calling him a killer, but if that's your call, you're my friend, and I trust you. You know what, Steve? Now that you mention it, I think I have a better idea. And the Power just like, what the fuck? And then we see someone talking to him, Fortunov. Wolfgang Fortunov, brother of King Vladimir, long-lost brother. Consider yourself found. As we see that somehow they've got access to kind of portal technology and have given him to someone else. And then, of course, the insipid heroes of America tell me you've spent 100 years shaping their history. They tell me you've taken the mantle of power and claimed it for your own. They tell me you've meddled with the fabric of magic. Other nations would sooner forget the actions of tyrants like your family, Mr. Fortunov. In Latveria, we ensconce our revolutions. We keep them fresh with anger and teach their truths to school children. But I must admit, in the years since I slaughtered your family for their crimes against my country, I do have one certain regret that I'm overjoyed to finally rectify. You made your little game last a century? Well, let me assure you, as we see that they've dropped him off. Now, granted, here in Latveria, you're like Doom, but then we see Doom being like, Doom will make your death last much longer. It's like, alright. So that deals with that, and I'm glad that Bucky's like, hey, at least we don't kill the dude. It's like, yeah. And then we get to the Lower East Side Manhattan. We see Steve, which I love that his key bowl is a Spidey bowl. You see it a little bit there. It's like, yeah. That they're back, and I like seeing their costumes kind of like that. That's just a cool little bit. As they're talking, they're like, okay, Deli. Or, she wants to go to Queens because she wants some chicharrones. Steve wants to be closer, but then we see that Amari pops up like, oh God, you're alive, thank God. And then he's thanking him for worrying about me. Incredibly kind, like your boxing teacher. Yeah, whatever, I'm just glad you're home. This is what I know. So that was a cool little thing. And then we end off kind of like how we began with Steve kind of running, doing his kind of morning jog and everything. I know victory, how the outer circle is broken, their plans for the century, so much ash on the wind. I know courage, how you'll never get what you need if you never step up and try. I know home, how it gives a soldier a place where the fight seems worth it. I know trust, how it tells us the difference between our deepest enemies and our best friends. I know vigilance, how some games don't end because the players have left the board. I know justice, how determination and execution can earn you a place among heroes. And I know that new heroes are born every day. As for what I don't know, honestly, I'm starting to think it doesn't matter. Because after a century in the fight, I finally know myself. As we then see him running around with Bucky and Sharon and all the rest as they're kind of running with him. And I like seeing the S.H.I.E.L.D. Community Center and honoring the Destroyer and everything. That's just pretty cool. It's like, yay. And then we get the writing team writing about Captain America and everything. And then, of course, Steve Rogers will return in issue 1 of Captain America by the new creative team. So, overall, I thought this was a nice conclusion that wrapped everything up well enough. We got the money dead, machine dead, Love's in the Wind. We'll see how that kind of works out. Power is by Doom, so that's pretty much done for the moment, but yet he could pop back up at any kind of point. I think there's at least potential there with the Power for other kind of writing teams or whatnot, especially if you're linking him to Latveria and stuff going on with Doom. We could see something like that in the future or whatnot. I am glad that the outer circle and everything's pretty much done there. And we'll see kind of what kind of pops off in the new creative team. It was just weird with certain kind of like that one gun panel. I'm like, am I missing something here? And then the money getting killed by the cat. It was just like the weird kind of bit. And then I'm glad that we got our kind of little cameos of Ian, Crossbones, Viper, Taskmaster, though I think that they should have had a little bit more time either devoted to them or not. Ian definitely needed to pop up because it's like, okay, he was such a big pivotal part of like the Cold War bit and being brought into the whole outer circle kind of game to begin with. So I would have pretty much rather had it more focused on dealing with the outer circle rather than trying to juggle as many elements as possible. Like if we wanted to see Taskmaster, Crossbones, and Viper, I almost think that there should have been a kind of story or whatnot done in the Milestone to more effectively do stuff with them rather than just having them pop up for little cameos. Again, I am appreciative of them, it's just the execution of them wasn't completely to my liking. I mean, granted, Ian needed to be in there for how important he was. The art was kind of the best parts of this, and then of course how Steve, even though they had missteps of his mischaracterization of what was going on in Cold War and going to try and help Ian, this still went back to more of the classical kind of Steve, and how Bucky has been moving away from the Winter Soldier kind of stuff and trying to think of better ways to deal with villains. So we'll see. I'm glad that this is concluded, and I can't wait to see where the new creative team goes next. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.